When I think back on those years in Chicago, I realize they were some of the hardest, but also the most defining of my life. My husband, Mark, was a good provider, a man who worked long hours at his construction company. He wasn't unkind, but he was practical, busy, and sometimes so focused on making ends meet that he forgot the small, softer gestures that make a house feel like a home. Our son Jacob was 10 when all of this began. He had Mark's dark hair and determined jawline, but there was something gentler in his eyes. Where Mark was serious, Jacob was thoughtful. Where Mark believed in discipline, Jacob believed in noticing the small things others didn't. It started one evening after Mark left for a late shift. The house was quiet, the dishes stacked in the sink, my back aching from another long day at my nursing job. I dropped onto the couch, ready to give in to exhaustion, when Jacob appeared in the doorway, holding something behind his back. "What's that?" I asked, smiling weakly. He pulled out a small plate, toast, buttered unevenly, with a few apple slices cut clumsily on the side. "You didn't eat dinner yet," he said simply. My heart squeezed. "Jacob, you didn't have to. I wanted to," he interrupted, setting the plate on my lap. "Dad doesn't like when I mess in the kitchen. But he's not here right now, so, surprise." That word, surprise, would become the thread weaving through the years that followed. At first, it was small things. Folding laundry into messy piles. Leaving notes scribbled on napkins that said "I love you, Mom." Picking dandelions from the yard and sticking them in a water glass on the kitchen table. Always after Mark had left. It wasn't that Mark was cruel. He just believed kids should focus on homework, chores, discipline. He didn't see the point in little gestures. But Jacob did. He saw me. One winter, after another heavy Chicago snow, I trudged home from work to find the driveway already shoveled. I blinked, confused, because Mark had been called out early that morning and wouldn't be home until late. Then I saw Jacob by the porch, cheeks red, hands blistered from the too big shovel. "You did this?" I asked. He nodded, shy but proud. "Dad always says it's a man's job to clear the snow." I thought maybe I could try. I hugged him tight, my tears stinging the cold air. "You're more of a man than you know, Jacob." One night, months later, I came home to faint sounds drifting from the living room. At first, I thought it was the TV left on, but when I stepped inside, I froze. Jacob was at the old piano, the one Mark had wanted to sell years ago because no one used it. His small fingers moved across the keys, awkward but beautiful, as he played a tune I hadn't heard since my mother's house when I was a girl. "Where did you learn that?" I whispered. He looked up startled. "From YouTube tutorials. Dad doesn't like when I make noise. But when he's gone, I practice." I sat beside him, tears welling. That night we played together, my rusty voice humming along to his uneven notes. It was the first time I had sung in years. From then on, the piano became our secret ritual, our after-Dad-leaves tradition. But as Jacob grew, I started to wonder if these surprises, these kindnesses hidden in the shadows, were teaching him to shrink himself, to only show love when it was safe. One evening, after he left me another clumsy bouquet of wildflowers, I asked, "Jacob, why don't you ever show these things to Dad?" He shrugged. "Because he won't get it. And I don't want him to tell me to stop. I'd rather save it for you." My heart ached. I wanted to encourage his light, not hide it. Yet I also knew he wasn't wrong. Mark wasn't cruel, but he had walls, and he didn't see Jacob's gentle heart as strength. It was Jacob's 15th birthday when everything came to a head. Mark had planned a practical celebration, a new set of tools, a firm handshake, a time to grow up, son kind of speech. But that night, after Mark went upstairs to bed, Jacob came into the kitchen, carrying a box wrapped in newspaper. "I got you something, Mom," he said. I frowned. "It's your birthday. You're not supposed to give me gifts." He pushed the box into my hands. Inside was a locket, not new, clearly old, the gold scratched but polished carefully. "It was Grandma's," he explained. "I found it in the attic last year. Dad said to toss old junk. But I kept it. I thought maybe you'd want it." I clutched the locket, sobbing. "Jacob, you shouldn't have." "Yes, I should," he said firmly. "You always do everything for me. This is my surprise for you." It was then I realized Jacob wasn't hiding kindness out of fear. He was saving it, treasuring it, like little offerings of love only we shared. That night, I made a decision. I sat down with Mark and told him what I had seen, what Jacob had done all these years. To my surprise, Mark didn't get angry. He was quiet, thoughtful. I guess I never noticed, he admitted finally. I thought discipline was the only way to raise a man. But maybe I was wrong. It wasn't a magical transformation. Mark didn't suddenly become tender or poetic. But little by little, he started noticing. He asked Jacob to play the piano for him once. He complimented him on a drawing. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Years later, when Jacob left for college, I stood in the driveway holding the same locket he had given me. "You've always been my surprise," I told him through tears. "Every act of kindness, every moment you shared with me, it saved me." He hugged me tightly. "You taught me it was okay to show it, Mom, even when it's hard." And then he was gone, off to become the man he was always meant to be. Now, whenever I touch that locket, I remember the boy who waited for his dad to leave just so he could surprise me with kindness. I regret sometimes that I didn't speak up sooner, that I didn't fight harder for Jacob to feel free to be himself in front of anyone. But I don't regret the secret nights, the piano songs, the messy toast dinners, the wildflowers in water glasses. Because those were the moments that reminded me, love doesn't always need to be loud to be powerful. Sometimes it waits in the quiet, blooms in the shadows, and surprises you when you need it most. And Jacob, my sweet son, surprised me every single time.